free with your order. This is a limited time offer. Go to mypatriotsupply.com to get your solar generator today. That's mypatriotsupply.com.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 AM WBNW. This is WBNW 1120 AM, the Money Matters Radio Network. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Mark comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Mark talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Mark is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Mark, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Mark Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide available this month titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. Mike, a lot of changes in the RMD landscape. When do people have to take RMDs from either IRAs or Roths?
How old are you?
Me personally?
So this does start changing now. It is currently 73 for a lot of folks. For some younger folks, it's actually now going to be 75 years old for your traditional IRAs and 401ks. And so that started at 70 and a half just a few years ago. And so this is a new set of rules for a lot of people.
When you look at how the penalty situation has evolved, this is one area that's actually gotten a little bit more lenient in recent years. And so that's something where if you are new to RMDs, there are some incentives if you've missed one to get that squared away as soon as possible.
There are, but, key takeaway. Understand these rules and don't miss your required minimum distribution, because there are still penalties for something that, again, is completely avoidable. Yes, the penalties used to be bigger. They are less stringent now and a bit smaller, but it is still unnecessary extra taxes and fees that you will end up paying if you do miss your required minimum distribution. So get our guide and learn a little bit more about how all of this works.
Folks, the guide is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mark Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mark Fandetti.
Chuck and Mark with you here today, and we kick things off with a piece from the Wall Street Journal. It's titled, "The Unofficial Jobs Numbers Are In," and it's rough out there. And there are a couple different pieces that I want to talk about with this. The first is, yes, we don't get a new jobs report every month right now while the government shutdown continues. This means that every bank and private equity firm out there is trying to come out with their alternative numbers of, hey, here's how many jobs were created in the month of September. Now, look, we did this kind of as an exercise on our Friday show just because, look, we had, a day where there was supposed to be a jobs report. And so Mike and I both, conveniently were like, hey, let's feed this into, an AI and see what it says job growth would have been. And we did it just to illustrate, the process by which, people and businesses and the Fed try to figure this out. They've got their existing models. They say, okay, let's plug in some inputs, and here's where we think it is. Ultimately, I think the world could use way fewer people releasing their unofficial jobs numbers because they all do have different methodologies. They all do have different models. They all have different inputs and things like that. And so all of them saying, hey, here's how many jobs were added for this month. Well, what have your models said in previous months? We've never talked about them. And so trying to use these numbers as a stand-in for the jobs report, I think is quite honestly just kind of not where we need to be going. It's just enough is enough. I don't need to know that, Carlyle Group thought there were 14,000 jobs created for the month and Goldman Sachs thought there were, X number. Hey, let's just look at the other data that's out there. And when we finally get jobs reports coming back out, we'll deal with them then. But until then, we can report on, hey, the ADP survey actually showed this, or Indeed shows this level of hiring, or Paychex shows this level of hiring, because those are actual data sets about, hey, we're tracking this and we're measuring this, not, well, we estimate that the government jobs report would have showed blank. I don't need someone telling me what they think the government jobs report would have showed. I don't think that's useful to anyone.
Yeah, I haven't done it myself, but I'm sure many people do use data from other sources to fit a so-called model and come up with a way to estimate payrolls changes.
Sure.
The problem is the relationships among, with any fitting exercise. You always ask, do I have the right variables trying to explain or forecast the variable of interest? And are the relationships stable? We know the answer to those questions are no, because no one has come up with a good way of forecasting payrolls to this point. It's not like people haven't been trying. So it's probably very hard to do, Chuck.
Right. I mean, the only thing that I would be interested in, quite honestly, is if like 3 billionaires went out and said, hey, we're going to spend a boatload of money coming up with 3 distinct ways to try to, interview and survey people, and we're going to spend a bunch of cash doing this, and we're going to try to, figure out what's happening. Okay, I'd be interested in that, because that's not just trying to look at different data inputs coming in. That's trying to actually like create some kind of survey and spend a boatload of money doing so. I'd be interested in that. Beyond that, hey, I'm looking at the Indeed Jobs Posting Index, which is something, by the way, that we talk about quite often. It shows that in the last 10 days from September 23rd through October 3rd, the number of job openings declined by about 1% on Indeed. Okay, that's something that I can just say exists as is. I don't have to then go and extrapolate that and say, well, that means that hiring decreased by... No, it's okay to just talk about data sets as...
Well, it's okay for us. It's not okay for a serious researcher, though. You have to go to your boss with something. And you have to say, updated my model last month, and here's where I think payrolls would fall with a certain amount of confidence. I mean, it's okay for us, but...
Sure, but I don't think that research that they're doing is valuable to disseminate to the public, because the public's not going to understand what it means.
If a hedge fund, and they put considerable resources, lots of PhDs, into working on problems like this, if they came up with a good way to forecast payrolls with less error than, say, the prevalent...
They wouldn't be telling us.
You would not... Exactly. You and I wouldn't know about it.
We talk about this a lot, actually. It's
called
one
proprietary.
When we talk about the sources of alpha in markets... It is private information, not material, non-public information, which is, obviously illegal to trade on, but private information, a model that you've built that you don't share with anyone because it estimates, the jobs report better. A model that you've built that shows how, the amount of rain in Saskatchewan impacts soybean prices coming out of Iowa. These are the things that, hey, if you actually have something that works, you don't tell people about it. And so, all of these reports of, well, so-and-so estimates that job growth was this and that. Well, if they really thought this gave them an edge, they wouldn't be telling you. There's a whole bunch
I don't think so, no. I wouldn't. We wouldn't.
There's a whole bunch, and this is also like when you see different things that are reported in the press, like, oh, so-and-so thinks that markets are going to do this and that. Why would they be telling you? There are 2 reasons why they're telling you. Number 1 is it doesn't matter to their performance. Number 2 is it does, and they've already pre-positioned themselves. You think about the hedge fund guys who go on, CNBC and Bloomberg and say, well, what, we think this could happen. And then at the end it's, hey, they disclose that they have a long or short position in whatever it might be.
Right.
And this is fine, we say. So I think ultimately when we're looking at the jobs numbers, I do not have a proprietary model to, project where the jobs numbers are going to be. But I look at a bunch of different indicators and say, yeah, this means something good. This means something bad. If I get a bunch of things pointing good or bad, okay, that just, gives me a little confidence in one direction. And I think for 99.9% of us, that's fine.
Depends on what you need the data for.
For 99.9% of us, Mark.
It's fine.
Yes.
Fine for this show.
For the 0.01% that needs, for the 0.1% that needs, something more because their job depends on it, it's not fine, and they can go and do, their own work. But I don't think we need every bank saying, well, this is what the jobs report would have showed this month.
I understand why they're doing that, though. Part of it is the PhDs in the background who need to demonstrate that they're adding value. So they run to their boss and say, I did a forecast using the variables that we normally use, and you can publish this because it's vague enough that we're not giving away our secret sauce.
Yeah.
You could argue that they're trying to perform a public service, or you could argue more skeptically, and we should be skeptical, that they're doing something to boost their so-called book. Like you said, it's like when a manager says, I like gold right now. It's because they own a ton of it, and they want you to pile in, and they can pass the bag along to the greater fool. That's a bad bad example. I don't
No, I get what you're
mean to besmirch gold. I just came up with a hot asset class. That's all.
No, I get
But
what you're saying.
skepticism is warranted.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about whether we're starting to see any impacts nationwide in the economy from the ongoing government shutdown.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Artificial intelligence is changing the way companies invest and how markets move. Add to that global trends like international outperformance, a weakening dollar, and shifting bond yields, and you've got a complex landscape for investors. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you understand what it all means. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th, or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. Call 800-393-4001 to reserve your seat. We'll talk about how diversification and preparation may help you navigate uncertainty so your plan is ready. Don't miss this chance to get a clearer picture of your financial future. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Mark Varner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark faithfully served his country from 1981 to 1984, and we're thrilled to have him as a partner and presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Mark comes from a proud military family that includes his father Victor and brother Timmy. Mark talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and it's one of the main reasons he chooses to give back to this special community. Mark is honored to continue the legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Mark, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. You can join Mark and help our great American heroes today by making a donation to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Cushing & Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Breaking business and financial news first throughout the day. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. Looking for a getaway that's easy, warm, and unforgettable? Discover the magic of the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Just a short flight from New England with no passport needed and no money to exchange. Soak up the sun, stroll along white sand beaches, and feel the rhythm of the heartbeat of the islands. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Plan your fall escape now at visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Couple different pieces in the Wall Street Journal. One titled, "The Shutdown is Already Squeezing These Businesses." The second one, much easier just to get through. Thin air traffic staffing spurs delays at U.S. airports. This, by the way, the air traffic control and TSA issue is the one that eventually ended up ending the 2018 shutdown as we started to see delays stacking up. And look, once you see things becoming visible to a broad portion of the U.S. population, generally the federal government says, okay, like, we don't really like this, like, let's figure this out and get back to work. But in terms of the businesses that are, being impacted by the shutdown right now, a couple different interesting cases that you can talk about here. Number one, you've got a medical device company in California that, just as an example, they had to postpone a spinoff because the regulators who would approve the spinoff aren't working right now. They're not essential personnel, so they can't go through their spinoff there. You've got another company here that is a bunch of electricians that are a government contractor. They are not having their new government contract signed because the people that signed said contract are non-essential personnel, and so they're trying to keep their staff employed while they wait for that new contract. So you've got kind of these sporadic areas where there's a very real and significant impact. This despite the fact that I think, quite honestly, for the vast majority of us out there, like, quite honestly, I get up and I go to work just like I do any other day, and I don't really see anything different. But for probably anywhere between 3 and 5 million Americans out there, including some of you that are listening, you're probably dealing with anything from minor inconveniences to major disruptions because you may be employed in the federal government or in a tangentially related company, and as such, you've got some real disruptions and questions about, hey, am I going to get paid in a week or so? Is this going to cause me to miss a mortgage payment or a rent payment? These are very real questions. And so I know that for a lot of us, most of you listening are not government contractors. You're not, seeing this impact you on a daily basis. You're getting to the point now, as this drags into its 8th day, where there are, again, several million people in the United States that are on the verge of having their livelihoods impacted if they haven't been already.
Like it or not, and I don't like it, but this is not about editorializing. The government drives a lot of economic activity. It's an important stabilizer. It's a source of sustenance for millions, as you say, of Americans. And as much as for ideological reasons, I don't mind a government shutdown once in a while. This particular shutdown is not about the deficit or cutting spending. It's over policy. So that ain't going to, fiscal reforms are not going to come of this. I would say hold their feet to the fire if they were. It seems just disruptive and unnecessary at this point, and it will have an impact on the economy. It'll probably be a blip, and it'll be made up for when the government reopens. It just infuses chaos into too many processes with no prospect of any kind of long-run payoff, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, we're now into the 8th day here of this shutdown. If you look at the online betting portals that allow people to wager on this, you're now the length that we are up to is about 23, 24 days that are being bet on. That's kind of the break-even point.
It is. The longer it drags on, the less likely it will get resolved, according to these.
Yeah, I think quite honestly, there are 2 dates that you're looking at on this. The first is a week from now. The next government payroll is the night of the 14th, and so, hey, do you want a resolution so that those workers are being paid on schedule? So by next, Wednesday is one that we'd be looking at. And the next one is end of the month, when you would have a second missed payroll for government workers that you'd potentially be looking at. Again, the last shutdown that we had, it was the longest that we've seen. That was 34 days at the end of 2018. And ultimately what drove it was, hey, you had a bunch of TSA workers and a bunch of air traffic controllers that said, no, we're not showing up if we're not getting paid. And, combination of, hey, like, we need to get paid because there are bills that we have to pay. And the other piece is, no, like, we're not just going to, go along with this is basically what they said. So that's when you saw the resolution there. To this point, in terms of the broader economic impact from these businesses that can't go through their normal operations, the estimates that we see are anywhere from around 0.1 to 0.2% per week. I tend to err on the lower side of that based on the estimates that I've seen. So GDP for every week this shutdown goes on would typically be reduced by about 0.1%, which, given the clip that the estimates have Q3 growing at, wouldn't be enough to inherently throw the U.S. into a recession on its own. But with some of the other questions that are out there on the labor market and other pieces, it could result in more of a slowdown if some of this marginal demand ends up causing non-government related companies to then end up laying off workers and things like that as well.
So there'll be makeup spending. Suppose this lasted for, I don't know, worst case, 60, 90 days.
Sure.
There'll be makeup spending in the first quarter. So there'll be a boost to GDP. It'll just swing in the opposite direction. You've got rebates from rebates may not be the right term, but there are tax breaks that will be front-end loaded, as I understand it, from the most recent tax bill, hitting in the first quarter.
Yes.
Fed stimulus. The Fed has been easing policy. They started easing policy. It'll now be a few quarters by the time the first quarter rolls around. So you have multiple sources of demand stimulus hitting in the first quarter. Well, of course, everything in my life comes back to the Fed, and are they doing the right thing? And in this case, I won't criticize them. I'll just point out that this makes things a little extra challenging. You've got multiple sources pushing demand up, and sources pushing policy sources pushing labor supply down at the same time. This creates inflationary pressure, is my little observation about the timing of all this stuff.
The other piece that I struggle to look at, like, let's say this does go on longer. Let's say it's 45, 60 days. Yes, you've got that makeup spending that happens on the back end once the government workers get paid out.
Yeah.
But what if the loss of demand created by them not spending in the interim results in non-government employment dropping because companies say,
maybe,
hey, like, we've seen a drop in demand for, example, you run a coffee shop near Logan Airport, and you go through, 3-4 weeks of weak demand. You say, hey, Sally, Jim, don't come in, 2 days next week. And then that, causes, a ripple effect from there and things along those lines. Are those things that happen as this goes on longer? Maybe. We've never seen one that long. I still think the most likely thing is a resolution either next week or end of October. I have a hard time seeing this dragging into November, but I've been known to be wrong occasionally. Hopefully not too often, but occasionally it can happen.
Yeah, who's going to flinch? I don't know. That's political.
Well,
I'm not qualified to discuss.
I have no
depends
idea.
on whose pain point is reached first, I guess.
So this is again kind of where we are in terms of the economic impacts to this point. Broadly, there's not much there, but obviously if you are employed by the federal government or in an adjacent business, you could personally be seeing some significant disruptions that have you a little bit nervous about where things go from here. But the broader economic impact, estimated to be around 0.1% of GDP for every week that this goes on, and we'll just have to see how things develop from here as we go, and whether we get a resolution in the next week or two. We'll just have to wait and see on that right now. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got Wall Street Watch, and then Todd Lutsky from Cushing & Dolan joins us for Ask Todd. Get your estate planning questions ready for Todd.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. Cushing & Dolan know that gifting assets can be one of the most emotional and challenging parts of estate planning. Their new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, can help you learn what to consider before making a major gift, like your primary home or a vacation property, and avoid unintended tax problems. Call 866-848-5699 to get your copy, or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan, with their master's in taxation. And today we're talking about the implications of gifting assets away. Todd, if you're trying to protect your assets from the cost of long-term care expenses, what are the risks in giving your assets to a child rather than transferring them to an irrevocable trust?
Yeah, it's a very big difference, right? These irrevocable trusts that we do for Medicaid purposes, first and foremost, are incomplete gifts. So you're not actually making a gift at all when you put it into these trusts. But if you give it to a child, now you've made a completed gift. So, for example, if I gave away my house, and people do it, right? You are giving away the built-in gain in that house. You now don't have any control over the house. You can't sell it and buy another one if you want to move. You need the kids' permission for all of that. Plus, if you never sell it and you die, you've trapped the built-in gain for the kids. When they go to sell it, they're going to have to pay capital gains tax. Whereas if you keep it, you can control it, get a step-up in basis for the kids when they die, and still protect it from the nursing home through the trust. Either way, it's going to take 5 years. But gifting isn't always the answer.
Educate yourself about the implications of gifting your assets away. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Making the Most of Gifting Assets right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request a copy on their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after the S&P 500 snapped its 7-day winning streak, markets today are in positive territory as the government shutdown continues into its second week. Right now, the Dow is up by about 0.25% or 106 points. S&P 500 is up 0.4% or 29 points higher. NASDAQ up 0.7% or 163 points. Russell 2000 is also up 0.4%. 10-year Treasury yield down 1 basis point at 4.111%, and crude oil up just over 1% higher today, trading at $62.48 a barrel. Well, after its 2.5% loss yesterday, Oracle shares are rebounding about 1% today. Oracle's recent pullback was driven by a report by The Information saying the company's margins from its cloud business were weaker than analysts were forecasting, and that Oracle is losing money on some of its deals to rent out Nvidia chips. Meanwhile, Equifax shares are rising over 2% after the company said it would cut prices for mortgage scores. This comes after Fair Isaac last week said it would sell credit scores directly to mortgage lenders, bypassing credit bureaus like Equifax. Elsewhere, Tesla unveiled stripped-down versions of its best-selling SUV and sedan. However, the lower prices don't quite cover the recently expired $7,500 EV tax credit. The standard Model 3 costs about $37,000, while the standard Model Y costs about $40,000. Tesla stock is edging higher. AST Space Mobile announced a deal with Verizon to provide its customers with cell service from space beginning in 2026. Sending that stock up 8%. Verizon down modestly. And third quarter earnings season kicks off tomorrow morning with Pepsi and Delta ahead of the opening bell. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
As promised, we're now joined by Todd Lutsky from Cushing & Dolan. It's your chance to ask Todd your estate planning questions. That's why the segment is named Ask Todd. Phone lines wide open right now at 888-205-2263, so get calling early and often to make sure you've got a chance to ask Todd your estate planning questions. That number is 888-205-2263. 2263. Remember, we can only get through 2 to 3 of these, so make sure that you get your calls in. Again, 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Do you know what's green and lightweight?
Green and lightweight?
Yeah.
No.
Light green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That would be true.
Todd, I want to talk to you a little bit about gifting as part of an estate planning strategy.
Okay.
A lot of times we talk about the perils of gifting assets.
There's plenty.
I want to be optimistic today.
Yeah.
When can gifting actually fit into an estate plan, and what tools are needed in order to make it as effective as it can possibly be?
So I'd say gifting, when you there's so many things entwined in that question that people don't even realize how many issues you just brought up. But gifting can make sense.
We do have a time limit, just so you know.
There is a lot to think about. You're absolutely right. So one, I think you got to look at the size of your estate, right?
Sure.
Do I, right now with the federal exemption come January 1 being $15 million each if you're married. So now you can shelter $30 million without doing any gifting at all from estate taxes. So that kind of eliminates the need for a lot of people to say, I need to gift away assets to what? To save federal death taxes, right? That takes a lot of people off the table. I don't need to because I'm under that Well, if I'm under that, then I only want to gift away assets because I have what? A Massachusetts, let's say, or your state, but a Massachusetts estate tax that I have to worry about. Why do I worry about that? Because that's over. If I'm married, I can only shelter $4 million in assets with the same basic estate planning that can shelter $30 million federally. Okay, well, maybe I should start thinking about gifting away some assets to save Massachusetts taxes. Oh, but hold the horses. Why? Because what am I going to give away? Well, I don't want to give away anything with a very low cost basis, which translates into a large built-in capital gain associated with that asset. Why? Well, if I give away any of those assets, like stock portfolios, like real estate that I've rented over the years and maybe depreciated it to zero, or even a vacation home that just has grown in value over the years, if I give that away, then what am I saving? Oh, well, Massachusetts is about 10-12% on average for the estate tax. Okay, well, I'll lower my estate and save 10-12%. But I've given away an asset that has a built-in gain associated with it, which will be taxed at almost 30%, not factoring in depreciation recapture. Well, I don't want to give away something to save 10%, but trap 30% capital gains tax. Doesn't make sense. So there's a lot to think about in what you're giving. Now, if I have cash, that's different. Okay, well, cash is cash. I can give that away, and it won't hurt me as much. Remember, there's no gift tax in the state, but there's a federal gift tax if you exceed the present interest exclusion of $19,000 per year per person. So those are freebies, and you can just give those away. And as you might imagine, we are limited in time, but there's also how do we gift it? Do we use gifting trusts? So many things to think about, Chuck, but I'm glad you at least, sort of sparked that curiosity for people.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from Cushing and Dolan. We still got a little bit of room on the phone line, so get calling at 888-205-2263 so you can ask Todd your estate planning questions. That number again is 888-205-2263. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we are going to get right to your questions with Todd Lutsky. That phone number one more time, 888-205-2263.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping in the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. Cushing and Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
artificial intelligence is changing the way companies invest and how markets move. Add to that global trends like international outperformance, a weakening dollar, and shifting bond yields, and you've got a complex landscape for investors. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you understand what it all means. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th, or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. Call 800-393-4001 to reserve your seat. We'll talk about how diversification and preparation may help you navigate uncertainty so your plan is ready. Don't miss this chance to get a clearer picture of your financial future. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, right to your calls with Todd Lutsky. First up, we got Dan in Peabody. Dan, you're on with Todd.
Good morning, Todd. I have a revocable trust right now.
Okay.
If I switch to an irrevocable trust, the $2 million exemption, does that go, do I get an exemption for that $2 million if I put it in an irrevocable trust?
Well, sure. It would depend on the type of irrevocable trust that we do. So let me just ask you this. Are you married?
No. Well, I was.
And do you have children?
Yes, 3.
Okay. So is the value of your estate way over that $2 million number or under it?
No, it's over.
How much over?
I would say another 2.
All right. So you're at $4 million. Was there any planning done when your wife passed?
No.
All right, so that's part of the problem is the fact that we weren't able to shelter anything on the first death. Now, with a $4 million estate, just for everybody else's edification as well as yours, if it was a $4 million estate and planning had been done, meaning trusts were in place, like that revocable trust that you mentioned that you have, did your wife have one of those when she passed or no?
Yes, she did.
Oh, okay, so you did have planning done. So,
yes.
So now you need to say how much of that $4 million is sheltered in your wife's trust so that it's not going to be taxed when you die. Do we know?
Okay.
So
no.
Let's assume that your wife's trust had roughly $2 million in it. Well, that $2 million would be sitting in now an irrevocable trust for the benefit of you in what was called a remainder share, and there would be no tax due when your wife died because it was $2 million or less. And that $2 million, no matter what it grows to, would not be taxable in your estate when you pass. So if you pass tomorrow, assuming my hypothetical fact pattern is accurate, you'd be worth $2 million. If you're worth $2 million and you have either the revocable trust that you are currently speaking about or the newly created irrevocable trust, you'd still be able to shelter your $2 million, thereby eliminating Massachusetts estate tax entirely. Now, to your point, regardless of what your wife has done, at least your $2 million probably should be put into an irrevocable trust so that you can get it protected from the cost of long-term care, at the same time not giving up your $2 million exemption. So you will keep your $2 million exemption to shelter it for estate taxes. And you also might want to get some guidance on thinking about your wife's trust and see how you can change that to make it also nursing home protected without creating an estate tax problem for you. So you're on the right track. You absolutely could get stuff done there and go ahead and make that change. Folks, that was interesting because that's more about estate planning, but some people do gifting to try and reduce their estate for estate taxes, as Chuck had asked me earlier. You know, gifting is not easy. There's so many things, as we talked about it, whether there's a gift tax and we have estate taxes we have to consider. We have to consider income taxes and basis. We have to consider if we want to give away an asset and retain control over it, enjoy it. So those are spousal lifetime access trusts. You know, do we want to understand what owning assets jointly do from even a Medicaid perspective, a nursing home perspective? So much to think about when you're giving away assets. So get the guide, learning about making the most of gifting assets, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com to get your guide.
Todd, got another one for you here. Let's go to Rick in Falmouth. Rick, what's your question for Todd Lutsky?
Hey, good morning, Todd. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Todd, about a year and a half ago, you set up an irrevocable trust for my wife and I and did a great job.
Oh, well, thank you.
We were talking about it the other day, and her and I have a little misunderstanding on part of it, and
Okay.
it's got to do with the savings account.
Okay.
We put it in my name, and you had gotten me a federal ID.
We put it in your trust, not your name.
That's correct, in my trust.
Okay, your trust, got it.
Now, can I withdraw funds from that?
So give me let's use a number. Like, how much is in there?
Okay, it's like $300,000.
So you got $300,000 in basically a bank account in the name of the trust, correct?
Correct.
So you can invest that money any way you want. If you don't like the bank, you can put it in an investment account, earn interest and dividends. Any interest and dividends that it earns, you can take directly. So you can have let's say you went to a brokerage house, set it up, invested it. You can take that money directly and put it into your personal bank account, not the trust bank account, anytime you want. It's the $300,000 principal that's protected, and you can't take it directly. There is a way to get it indirectly, but before you start accessing it indirectly, I would tell you, please spend money that you have outside the trust first, like IRA money, either you or your wife, or any other investments that you left outside the trust, because we never put everything in, right? So spend those first. Why? Because those are at risk for the nursing home, whereas what's in the trust is not. So if you do need to access that money, though, there is a way to get it, and certainly happy to help you with that. You can give me a ring off air, and we can get you that information. So hopefully that helps clarify your situation.
Todd, got another for you with Tony in Falmouth. Tony, you are on with Todd Lutsky. Tony, are you there?
Might have lost Tony.
Hello.
Oh, there's Tony.
Yes, Todd. Thank you for your time. My sister and I recently inherited our mother's condo, and we've already sold it, and we're going to end up with roughly $200,000 each. And my question is this a taxable event?
So when you say you inherited your mother's condo, she did not deed it to you folks while you were alive, correct? Well, she was alive.
She had it in her will that we would get it.
Great. That's exactly what I want to hear. So if she died owning it, and then the deed went from her at death or from her estate to you and your sister, then you inherited the property, and it was not gifted to you during life, which is all about this guide, right? Don't just give things away. Sounds like your mom did the right thing. She didn't give it away. And so she passed away owning it. Then it was included in her estate for estate tax purposes, passed to the kids. So if the property at the date of your mom's death was worth $400,000, and you sell it for $400,000, you kids will have gotten something known as a step up in cost basis, which means that your cost of that property is $400,000, even though you paid nothing for it. So now if you sell it for $400 fair market value minus $400,000 stepped up cost basis equals a capital gain of 0. And so their answer, the long-winded answer to your question is no capital gains tax on the sale. So hopefully that's helpful.
Todd, appreciate you joining us today. I know you gave a bunch of information there on gifting and answered some great questions from our listeners. Is there anything else on the gifting side that you want to touch on? We got about a minute or so still to go here.
Yes. I think back to to Tony's point is that everything was done good for the mother the way she did it. Although the one thing that maybe we could have improved on there was, I guess we're fortunate and happy that she didn't end up in a nursing home. But if she did, then there might not have been any house left to get a step up. So people always say, how come when I put assets in an irrevocable trust, I get a step up in basis? Well, I can get the same step up by just dying owning it. That's true. But why is there still a benefit? Why do I mention that as a benefit with the irrevocable trust? Well, because at least in the irrevocable trust, I know there will be a house there to pass on to the family to get that step up in basis so they can sell it with capital gains tax. Whereas here, if unfortunately Tony's mother, if she had gone into a nursing home, there could have been a very different outcome because there may not have been that house still there.
Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate the time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Bunch to come in the second hour of our show, including we're going to be touching on gold and the recent rally that has it north of $4,000 an ounce. Talk a little bit about the housing market and what we are seeing there. And then also going to be continuing to touch on what we are seeing in AI and the spending boom there that is driving just a ton of economic activity both in the United States and around the globe. Quick break now, but hour 2 is coming up in just a little bit.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams, your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping in the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all 3 and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Mark comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Mark talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Mark is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Mark, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Mark Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. Mike, one area with some big changes the last couple of years has been RMDs as it relates to inherited IRAs. What is the lay of the land today?
Yeah, so critical things that you need to know is that for most inheritors that are not spouses, so that's your starting point. If you are not married to the person who passed away, you are most likely subject to a out in 10 rule. What has also changed is that you're required to satisfy two different rules for most folks. Again, you are required to empty that inherited IRA within a decade. You also have annual required minimum distributions based on life expectancy. So it is really complicated now for inheritors.
How does that potentially influence how a parent may leave assets to surviving children in terms of taking their incomes into account?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it is going to concentrate this additional income in a decade time period after you're gone. And so it adds a little bit of complexity in terms of that estate planning, right? Maybe I've got two kids. One's a very high income earner. One is a little bit lower. Do I potentially reshape my beneficiaries so that they both receive the same amount, maybe after taxes? A lot of complex planning you can do there.
The guide this month is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. The two ways that you can request it are by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, or you can request it at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mark Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mark Fandetti.
Chuck, Mark, and Tucker with you, and as we kick things off here, we got stocks rebounding from yesterday's modest decline with a modest rebound, dare I say. The S&P 500's up 0.4%, 28 points. The Dow is up about 0.25%, 96 points, and the NASDAQ Composite up 159 points, almost 0.75%. So, again, pretty quiet week in equity trading overall, just not a ton of movement there. 10-year Treasury also holding pretty stable, down 1 basis point to 4.117%. National average for 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is at 6.38, unchanged from yesterday. So you basically have not seen much movement in mortgage markets or in rates in the last few days. One place that you are seeing quite a bit of movement, and we're going to talk honestly a lot about this today, is in gold, which continues to just be, just heading basically straight up for the last month and a half or so. Now up another $62 an ounce to $4,066.40. And then taking a look through, actually, it's not even the biggest move we're seeing in commodities. Silver's up a couple percentage points, platinum up 3%, and palladium has been absolutely ripping the last month as well. It's up 30% over that time and up 7% today to new palladium is not new all-time highs, just new 52-week highs that you're seeing there. Oil also moving up today. West Texas Intermediate up 74 cents a barrel to 62.47. AAA national average for gas prices nationwide continues to hover in that 310 to 320 range. We're down a touch over the last week, going from 316 to 311. So you've seen some improvement there. And maybe we get a chance to finally break out to the downside and get a little bit close to $3, because we've been in this range for, almost all the year, between 310 and 320. Maybe we get a little bit of additional relief at the pump and head down towards $3 a gallon in the coming days. Let's talk about gold here, Mark, because quite honestly, what we are seeing from gold this year is impressive, but in the last month and a half, I guess, since mid-August, has been really impressive as well. So gold started this year at about $2,600 an ounce. It's sitting here now at over 4,000. So you're up north of 50% year to date now, and in particular, we've seen almost a 20% move in the last month and a half now in gold after consolidating sideways over the course of the summer. And what do we think this means when we look at the picture here, Mark?
Well, there are a lot of reasons that researchers cite for a rise in gold, and it might, for gold's recent ascent, it might be most helpful to think about it through the lens of what are people trying to hedge. What does gold represent? Why would you hold it aside from its industrial use? There's some intrinsic demand for the metal because it's used in things, but beyond that, why would you hold it? Some people cite its inflation hedging properties, though the record there is very mixed. It went up in the 70s when inflation was high, so people tend to remember that and forget about the fact that gold is not very highly correlated, doesn't move in the same direction at the same time as inflation, at least in the period since. So its inflation hedging properties are kind of questionable. The most persuasive argument I've seen is that gold is an alternative, as opposed to an alternative currency, an alternative to the dollar, to the euro, and to the yen and other currencies, which could be debased as governments print more to finance deficits over time. You might want to think about gold as a safe asset generally, and as an alternative to, say, U.S. Treasuries and other very high-quality sovereign bonds. So one thing of note is that real interest rates have been coming down at the same time, and I'm using TIPS yields as my proxy there, Treasury inflation-protected security yields for real rates. At the same time, gold has been going up. That's recent. The longer-term correlation is also positive. It's not overwhelming, but it's significant, and it's conspicuously positive. So my best guess is, Chuck, a little bit of randomness, a little bit of whatever's boosting all metals, a little bit of safe asset money, safe asset demand, and by safe asset I mean something that will be money good in a crisis. Safe asset demand relative to, say, U.S. Treasuries, maybe a combination of all those things, and a little bit of speculative frenzy type behavior too. There's always that element.
I tend to think that I don't think there's anything in the last year that's random chance when it comes to gold. I don't think this is, in particular in the last couple months, I think this is one trade. I know a lot of times on our show I try to say, hey, like there could be like multiple reasons for this and that, and that's usually in the context of, moves that we might see. We talk about it a lot with interest rates and, treasuries, and people like to say, oh, like whenever, yields go up, well, that's because people are nervous about the debt. But they never say anything when it goes down. Like, did people become unnervous about the debt? No,
yeah, right.
they didn't. In this case, the reason why I think there's something that we can say conclusively about gold is because it's not happening over a short period of time, days or weeks. It's happened over the course of the full year. And it's also not just happening in dollar terms. We're seeing gold rocketing up. You look at all the major world currencies. Gold is appreciating dramatically versus the yen. It's appreciating dramatically versus the euro, versus the yuan, versus the Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar, the rupee. I mean, you go through like the major 7-8 world currencies that get used in, the vast majority of transactions in the world. And gold is strengthening versus all of them. And then you look at the actions that are being taken across the world. and like we'll just do like hop in our little airplane and go like on a little trip. You head over to the EU, and all they're talking about is, yep, we're going to print $500 billion in additional defense spending, and we'll figure out how to do it. And we're on like the 68th French government this year now. I mean, like it's like, okay, there's something there, right? You go and you take a look at Japan, and they just put in place leadership that is basically like, hey, we want Abenomics, but more. Like throw another log on the fire, and who cares if inflation is, at the highest we've seen it in Japan in decades. Toss another log on the fire and let's see what happens. In the United States, we're sitting here and we're saying, you know what? Maybe 6 to 8% annual deficits aren't that bad. Maybe we can live with that. That'll be fine. You go to China, they're printing trillions of yuan to try to bail out bad loans within the country and this and that. You go across the board, and there is this unrestrained fiscal impulse of, well, you know what? Let's just run it hot and spend our way out of, whatever the problem might be. Like, this is not a U.S. phenomenon. It's not a Europe phenomenon. It's not a Japan. It's an everywhere phenomenon. And gold is sniffing that out, in my opinion. And now, specifically, market participants are sniffing out, hey, if you're not sure, if you kind of look at it and you go, well, we don't really like any of these currencies. They're all kind of a mess. And there's nowhere to hide. The place that people start to look is in stuff like gold and other precious metals. And those markets, by the way, are minuscule compared to the amount of money that sloshes around in currencies. And that's why it doesn't take much to move gold in this fashion.
It's true. Institutional investors haven't really held gold as part of their strict, like I'm talking, when I say institutional, I mean pensions, endowments. You could put 401ks in there too, but I'm thinking about pools of money governed by a board. So pensions, endowments, including multi-employer pensions. Maybe you're a plumber, pipe fitter, carpenter, whatever. You're in the New England Carpenters Pension Fund, for example, or whatever region you reside in. They're making those allocations. They're small, but they're making those allocations now. It's a little itty bit of insurance into an asset that doesn't yield any. Look, I don't really get gold, but I shouldn't because I'm a traditional researcher. It has no yield. Its value is sort of psychological. And I'm not diminishing that. I'm saying that's the attractive element. But so is the value of U.S. Treasuries to an extent as a safe asset. You believe in the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. You believe that in a period of acute turmoil, geopolitical, economic, whatever, gold will retain value. Never mind how the heck are you going to exchange it for anything without getting killed and getting it, people don't.
You don't mean actually killed.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm walking around with a sack of gold, someone a lot tougher than me, which wouldn't take long to find, is going to take it from me. So I don't know what people think they're going to do with it in a crisis.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just use me as an example, walking around with a sack of gold. You get the idea very quickly of how vulnerable.
Does it have a big dollar sign on the back?
I do, sort of like Scrooge McDuck, you know. Their coins are falling out because it's...
Yeah. I've got a monocle and a big sack of money and...
Twisting your mustache. Yeah.
So I'm with you. I kicked off a bunch of causes to start this segment, Chuck, but I'm with you. I think it's acknowledgement that deficits are big and getting bigger, that the debt is going to at some point be unmanageable and consume us all, that governments are going to have to inflate these debts away. Gold is a natural hedge against very bad, I think you called it a stupidity hedge or something like that. Somebody did, and I like that. It's a hedge against bad policy, and there's a lot of bad policy going around right now, particularly here in the U.S.
So I think that when we look at the action that we're seeing, and in particular, the summer, I can't tell you how many people I heard from in the summer, they're like, man, gold went up, but it's not really doing anything, and stocks are ripping. Like, is this the time to, like, get rid of gold? And my answer was kind of consistently, look, things tend to correct in two different ways. The first is they can correct through price, which is the one that you don't want to see. It's thing goes parabolic up and goes parabolic down, and you're like, well, I'm glad that we did that. It was fun, but it wasn't that fun because I have exactly what I started with. The other way that things tend to correct is through time. And what gold went through this summer was a correction in time, where you go and you take a look at where it was in mid-April, and it had gotten to about $3,200 an ounce. It never really went below there aside from 1 or 2 days in May. It continued to kind of bounce off like $34.50 an ounce for most of the summer on the top side, so it was 5 to 6% trading range. And then as soon as it got a little bit of momentum in late August, it has been off to the freaking races since then. And it's not to say that, like, that's where it's going. Again, like, here's the thing about gold. It has long periods of really crappy performance, punctuated by short periods like this where it is incredibly explosive.
What does that sound like, by the way? Any insurance policy.
Yes, which is exactly what it is.
You bleed, and then
and so
boom.
The big thing with gold is, hey, once it goes through one of these explosive periods, it does not give you a chance to get back in until it finally does say, okay, this is over. Like, this is what we've seen historically. So I think there's something really interesting that's happening here. It's not just a U.S. phenomenon. This is a worldwide thing that we are seeing, and that's why I think you're getting a lot of focus and news on this side of things with the price of it. Quick break here, and when we come back, it's trivia.
The Financial Exchange is now available every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Stay informed about the latest from Wall Street, fiscal policy, and breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mark Varner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark faithfully served his country from 1981 to 1984, and we're thrilled to have him as a partner and presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Mark comes from a proud military family that includes his father Victor and brother Timmy. Mark talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and it's one of the main reasons he chooses to give back to this special community. Mark is honored to continue the legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Mark, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. You can join Mark and help our great American heroes today by making a donation to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Are you wondering where the economy is headed? GDP is growing, but tariffs, inflation, and job numbers are making headlines. Interest rates, housing costs, and policy changes are impacting all of us. Even AI is changing how markets move. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you make sense of it all. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. To reserve your seat, call 800-393-4001. We'll break down the economic trends, market risks, and smart strategies you need to plan for retirement and beyond. Diversification, preparation, and smart decisions are several of the keys to navigating uncertainty. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, let's do a little bit of trivia here on the Financial Exchange. Today is R.L. Stein's 82nd birthday. Stein is best known for writing a children's book series that has sold over 400 million copies in 24 languages. His creation has also been developed as a TV series and a movie. So, trivia question today. What is the name of R.L. Stein's popular children's book series? Once again, what is the name of R.L. Stein's popular children's book series? Be the 8th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the 8th correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Piece in the Financial Times, it's titled, Brace for a Market Melt-Up. And melt-up is one of those terms, it's kind of nebulous. Like, I don't think there's a formal definition for melt-up. And furthermore, why does it melt up? Like, nothing. When something melts, gravity makes it fall. So I don't know like where this term came from, other than it's like
it's relatively new.
Are so hot, so they have to melt, but they're going to melt up. So
it's new.
I don't poo-poo the idea of this, in that with where we are right now, I think ultimately, like we keep getting a bunch of like everyone's out there being like, well, this has to fall apart sometime. This has to fall apart sometime. And the time when things usually fall apart is when the last people are like, well, it can't fall apart now, and you know maybe we haven't gotten there yet. But it's also, you just look at the calendar, and just from a mechanical standpoint, you start getting towards year end. And Mark, you know this from being in the institutional management business, where you start getting towards, November and December, and every fund out there is just trying to make their bogeys by year end. They're all chasing performance to try to get that last bit. It's why we have, terms like the Santa Claus rally and stuff like that, is that you get this, tailwind of managers just chasing into year end. And there's a very real case that you could sit here and be like, yeah, there still was a bunch of money that got pulled off to the sidelines, in April when people got nervous, and institutions might try to, make that up because hedge fund performance this year hasn't been great, and maybe that chases the S&P 500 like 5 to 10% higher in the next few months or so. Like, there's a very reasonable case to be made there. The counter case is that everyone and their grandmother is now talking about this melt up, and that gets me kind of interested in being like, oh, melt up, like that's interesting. Why do all of you think that at this particular point in time after stocks have already run 40% plus from the April lows?
Yeah, it is, I think, a normal last phase of an exuberant bull market for there to be a final pop. And that, for reasons that you cited, that makes sense. Of course, a bubble pops at its peak. It has to by definition. What's the catalyst going to be? I don't find
if
this.
a bubble doesn't pop, is it really a bubble?
Yeah, was it a bubble to begin with? Right.
Right.
And by bubble, we should define that. We just mean when something departs so much from fundamentals, and fundamentals mean what you would value in the case of a particular stock, what you would value it at using a reasonable estimate of future cash flows and the rate of return you require to compensate you for the risk. With those two things, you can bring the stream of dividend payments or the eventual return, the eventual appreciation you experience when you sell the security. You can bring those back to the present, literally a present value. Compare that to what the stock is paying today, and voila, you get a reasonable estimate of fair value. You can compare that to current value, and if something is way out of whack relative to fair value, you might call that a bubble. Personally, I see a lot of signs of serious excess. Of course, I blame the Federal Reserve, which is responsible for financial conditions. And it is baffling to me that they're easing into an environment where financial conditions are about as loose as they can get. Stocks continue to hit record highs. And gold is telling us all something, as you pointed out. I happen to agree with that. Honest people can disagree, but gold appears to be telling us something, and the value of other metals and assets appear to be too. I don't think it's a coincidence that gold, stocks, home prices are all hitting all-time highs. I left a bunch of things out. Financial conditions are as loose as they've ever been. Underlying inflation remains elevated. I don't think those things are a coincidence. Ultimately, that is the Fed's problem.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we've got the trivia answer, and we've got Wall Street Watch.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, having served nearly 20 years, and we are so proud to have him and his business as a key partner and a presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. The DAV Department of Massachusetts does incredible work, and it's one of the first organizations that Mark became familiar with after his military service ended back in 1984. As Mark built his company, he knew he'd be giving back to fellow veterans who needed jobs, support services, medical supplies, and so much more. Mark works with disabled veterans every day, and it's one of the key reasons why he's such a big supporter of Dan Stack, the DAV Department of Massachusetts, and the DAV 5K Boston. You can join Mark Vonner and his team and make a donation to the DAV Department of Massachusetts or become a sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. And today we're talking about the implications of gifting assets away. Todd, since the estate tax laws are projected to change on January 1st of 2026, significantly reducing the estate tax exemption, does it make sense to gift away assets right now?
You know, it's a big question mark. You have to think of a few things. One, look at the size of your estate. If the exemption falls to $7 million, each and you're married, you can still die with $14 million of assets and not have an estate tax. So gifting might not be important from a federal gift tax situation. But the state exemption is only $2 million, so you can only shelter $4 million. So you might want to gift to reduce your state estate tax. However, there's basis to consider. If you give away low basis assets, you're trapping capital gain. And to do that, you might be paying more in capital gains taxes later when the kids sell the assets than you're saving in just Massachusetts estate tax. So you really got to think about whether it makes sense to gift or not. And if you're going to gift, you should probably set up a gifting trust. People might be gifting large assets away and not gift the assets directly to a child. Have them in a trust for the child's benefit and then protect those assets for them.
Educate yourself about the implications of gifting your assets away. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Making the Most of Gifting Assets right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request a copy from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are rebounding after yesterday's pullback as the government shutdown continues into its second week. Right now, the Dow is up 0.3% or 138 points. S&P 500 up 0.5% or 33 points. NASDAQ up 0.75% or 169 points. Russell 2000 is up nearly 0.7%. 10-year Treasury yield down 1 basis point at 4.117%. And crude oil up nearly 2% higher, trading at $62.82 a barrel. Well, after its 2.5% loss yesterday, Oracle shares are rebounding about 0.5% today. Oracle's recent pullback was driven by a report by The Information saying the company's margins from its cloud business were weaker than analysts were forecasting and that Oracle is losing money on some of its deals to rent out Nvidia chips. Meanwhile, Equifax shares are rising nearly 2% after the company said it would cut prices for mortgage scores. This comes after Fair Isaac last week said it would sell credit scores directly to mortgage lenders, bypassing credit bureaus like Equifax. Elsewhere, Tesla unveiled stripped-down versions of its best-selling SUV and sedan. However, the lower prices don't quite cover the recently expired $7,500 EV tax credit. The standard Model 3 costs about $37,000, while the standard Model Y costs about $40,000. Tesla stock is edging higher on the day. AST Space Mobile announced a deal with Verizon to provide its customers with cell service from space beginning in 2026, sending that stock jumping by 10%. Verizon down modestly. In third quarter earnings season will kick off tomorrow morning as Pepsi and Delta will post their results ahead of the open. Major banks, including J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs will follow on Tuesday of next week. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the prior segment, we asked you the trivia question. What is the name of R.L. Stine's popular children's book series? That's, of course, Goosebumps. Emily from Westbrook, Maine is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats, Emily. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mark, let's talk a little bit about housing. First, we got a piece from the Wall Street Journal. Homeowners are pouncing on the tiniest drop in mortgage rates. They did for about a couple weeks. And then they've kind of, said, okay, like all the people who wanted to refinance kind of did, and so it's just the blooms off that rose. So as an example, there's an index. It's called the MBA Mortgage Refinance Index. It's run by the Mortgage Bankers Association, as you would expect from the name. And it measures, it's just an arbitrary number. Higher means there's more activity, and lower means there's less. So on September 5th, the reading on it was 1,010. For the refinance index. You don't need to know what that means. It doesn't mean that there were 1,000 refinances. It's compared to some arbitrary date in the past. and whatever. The reading on September 5th was 1,010. We then saw interest rates drop heading into the Fed meeting, and for the next 2 weeks, the reading was about 1,600. So there was a 60% bump in refinancing activity for 2 weeks. The most recent reading, my goodness, I can't do anything this segment. The most recent reading came out this week, and it's back down to 1,180. So mortgage refinances have declined 25% since that 2-week boom. And this also coincides with mortgage rates going back up like 0.25%. So we're in a very interest rate sensitive environment right now. And I also think that when you look at the MBA purchase index, which they have as well, that's up very modestly from the summer, about 6-7% right now. But the other piece that you have to look at, and this is data that we don't get from the MBA, you get it from other sources, the dollar value, the average size of the mortgage being taken out is smaller than at this time last year, which means that home prices are not moving up because you would be borrowing more if they were. It's generally the trend that we've seen. So I think we're in a very rate-sensitive environment that, quite honestly, in order to get the housing market really moving, I think that national 30-year average has to be somewhere in the 5.5% range, about 0.75% below where it is today. And you kind of extrapolate, okay, what needs to happen for rates to get there? The 10-year Treasury probably has to get down into the 3.5, 3.6 range, which if the 10-year Treasury's there, probably means something's really wrong in the economy. And I don't know that that really helps the housing market then.
So big lenders must know what these trigger points are because they know what their book of business consists of. They know when people typically refinance, when I can save $200 a month or more. That's my signal to jump in there.
Yeah.
They know who in their book that would apply to. Therefore, they must know what the thresholds are. So they're ready for this.
Yes.
That's not really... that's just more of a question slash observation. Okay. So that's one thing that occurs to me. Banks know when this activity is going to pick up and when it's unlikely to, I guess. The other thing is people did seem to pounce. Was that activity more than would have been expected by big banks given the drop in rates, or was that predictable? If it was predictable, then people are behaving as usual. I think this is the point I was trying to make, which I got lost as I was probing.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, thanks. You're too kind.
Just keep going.
Okay. No, we have no choice. So is that more than would have been predicted by banks modeling? If so, does that suggest people might think that was a fleeting... just a fleeting revisiting of rates in the, what would it drop to, like 6.3 or something? 30-year fixed rate was somewhere around there.
We got down to 6.1 for a couple days.
Okay, it was lower than that, excuse me. So it went from like mid sixes to very low sixes. People pounced. Does that mean people think rates are more likely to go up and stay up? In other words, was the little frenzy of activity there more than their models would have predicted? I don't know why I'm asking this question because we can't answer it, but that would be interesting to me. We just don't have the data.
Folks, Armstrong Advisory Group is going to be hosting a seminar. We have one tomorrow, but quite honestly, if you don't have plans for tomorrow yet, you can obviously join us at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod then. But we're also hosting another one on October 16th, this one at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill. There's also going to be a live broadcast of the Financial Exchange, so you can come and say hi to Mike and I and watch us as we broadcast the show there. And then afterwards, we're going to be going through a discussion of some key economic topics and taking a Q&A from the audience as well. It's at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. That's a week from tomorrow. It's going to rain all week next week. Come inside and join us because you might learn something and you'll get to stay out of the rain too, which is always a positive when it's 50 degrees outside. Again, Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. 800-393-4001 is the number to call, or you can reserve a spot at armstrongadvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about the First Brands bankruptcy. They are an auto parts manufacturer. They make brands such as Fram oil filters and other things that you might know from your vehicles. And basically, the long story short is they took on way more debt than anyone thought they had, and now they can't pay it all back, which is usually how bankruptcy happens, except for like the way more debt than anyone thought they had. Creditors through the summer thought they had like $6 billion in debt. It's turning out they might have like 12 to 15 billion. No one's entirely sure because a lot of it was off balance sheet and done through these repo agreements, and it's a mess. Jefferies, one of their credit funds, has about $715 million of exposure linked to First Brands, making them one of the largest creditors. And look, this is not the housing crisis. I don't think it's the housing crisis.
You sound less confident than you did a week ago.
Here's the thing. When you just have one company where this happens, it can be a fluke. It can be an off chance that there's something going on. There was also the Tricolor bankruptcy just before that, also in the auto space, a dealer and financer in that space. And so you start to look around and say, is there something happening that's starting in the auto sector that might like spill out from there, just because now that you're like starting to see what's going on with this First Brands bankruptcy, the questions that are on everyone's mind who's in that private credit space, whether it's auto related, art related, hotel related, invoice related, whatever it is, everyone out there is sitting around looking, going, well, what's this thing that I own worth? And do I want to keep it on my books, or do I want to try to sell it off to someone? And how much are they going to pay me for it if I can get it off my books? And that, to me, it's not reminiscent of 2008. It's reminiscent of 2007. Because remember, things started bubbling up in early 2007 in subprime. It wasn't until 18 months later that things really blew up.
Yeah, I agree. To me, it is reminiscent of 07. We, not you and I, but we, the industry, were asking questions of hedge fund and other managers at the time. What is your exposure to this? And they couldn't answer that question fully because no one analyst, and when I say analyst, I mean the person at an investment manager who evaluates investment for purchase and is ultimately responsible for its performance. They own it, and they live and die by it. They don't see the whole picture. They just see the last couple of links in the chain. They don't understand, not because they're not bright, they are, but because nobody can see every link in the chain. You don't know what the cash flows you are getting are ultimately dependent upon. So it would be like, Chuck, I loan money to you. What I didn't know, because I can't see two links from me, I can only see you, is that Tucker owes you money, and that's how you're going to make the payments to me. You could call this off balance sheet. Just call it a tangled web of interconnected obligations.
Messy.
It's hard to get to the root of the source of the cash flows for the sucker that you own. Now, you are a AAA rated credit. You're a highly credit-worthy borrower. I have no problem lending money to you. What I didn't know is that you lent money to some non-credit-worthy, I'll pick on Tucker and Lois here. You lent money to them.
Lois just,
I'm not getting lunch on
caught
Friday.
Up in the
not getting
whole
lunch. She's
thing.
She's like, what did I do? I just need an example. You can't see more than one or two links down the chain, so you don't understand what's backing up the cash flows of the thing that you own. You don't even know what your exposures are. So you call asset managers in an environment like this. You call a Goldman Sachs. You call a PIMCO. What's your exposure? They say, geez, we don't have any that we're aware of. But as it turns out, because of the chain analogy that I'm using, everybody's exposed. This may be contained, or it could be contagious. We just don't know which we don't know whether it's contained or contagious at this point.
And that's the piece that is going to take some time to unfold here. So this may end up being a nothing burger in the broader economy. My antenna are up on it, though.
Chuck, combine this with soaring gold prices, easy financial conditions, stock market at record highs, home prices at record highs, elevated inflation, reckless fiscal policy. The confluence of things here has the potential for some very ugly outcomes.
Quick break. When we return, Stack Roulette.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Cushing & Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Inflation, housing costs, and rising interest rates are putting pressure on families everywhere. From higher insurance and taxes to volatile markets, today's economic landscape is changing fast. This is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall, first at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod on October 9th, and next at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. Call 800-393-4001 to reserve your spot. We'll discuss how to manage risk, protect your retirement, and create a plan that can handle economic ups and downs. Whether it's core inflation, market volatility, or policy changes, you'll learn about strategies that may help you plan smarter. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132, weekdays from 11 to noon. Get the latest business and financial news from across the country and around the world, and keep up to date on how it might affect your wallet. That's The Financial Exchange, weekdays from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, this year's DAV 5K is sold out, but you can still help our great American heroes. The race is Saturday, November 8th at Castle Island, and you can visit DAV5K.Boston to make a donation of any amount to support our troops. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to DAV5K.Boston and make your donation today.
Mark, I got to talk about someone who shares your name, unfortunately. Mark Andreessen, the venture capitalist. He gave an interview the other day. This was in a conversation with, where was it? It was on, the company Stripe has a podcast called Cheeky Pint, I guess.
Oh, boy.
I don't know why. Stripe's a payment processing company. And I just want to read, a couple of quotes here. He says, the other great economic fallacy that I see everywhere is the idea that AI is going to somehow be this hyper-successful thing, this hyper-acceleration of productivity that'll change everything and destroy all the jobs, and yet still going to lead to people being eviscerated and being poor and not having anything. He says, even if it played out like that, the result will be hyper-deflation of prices, which is the thing that people miss. So in that environment, the price of business services will collapse, and things that today cost a lot of money will suddenly be all cheap or free. Now, he's not wrong about that piece of it, but what he's wrong about is the fact that the reason they'll be cheap or free is because there's no demand for them. And if you are a business that fires everyone, how do those people make a living going forward? So, again, I don't think a lot of this is particularly well thought out. I always hear people talk about deflation as if it's this good thing, and people don't remember that when there was actual deflation in the U.S. historically, basically every couple of years in the 17 and 1800s, it was typically as a result of massive gaps in demand that resulted in tremendous job loss and hardship. Like, when we think about deflation, we think of it in terms of, well, I maintain my job, but the things that I buy get cheaper. When in reality, the reason that deflation usually happens is that a large number of people lose their jobs and purchasing power and can't buy those things anymore. And that's why deflation has historically been a thing. I don't think anyone can make a convincing argument that deflation is something that is actually good.
No, Andreessen has no idea what he's talking about. He may be a genius in his little domain, but anybody who took a few undergraduate economics courses could explain why deflation is bad. We did have deflation in the early stages of the Great Depression. We stayed on the gold standard. The Fed could not pump enough money into the economy as a result. And debts, the real value of debt, exploded. So you don't want deflation if you owe debt. It's quite bad for you.
And we've got a little bit of that in the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a bit.
Yeah, we want the opposite. With a Federal Reserve that can print money, you won't have deflation ever. So again, I don't really know. This is the problem with reasoning without a model in your head. You say like preposterous things. You can criticize economists for their models, but they at least require that they think kind of rigorously and consistently, and it gives them something to test against the real world. Look, AI could result in a productivity miracle. That's true, but deflation or even disinflation or low inflation doesn't follow from that. Those things are determined by whoever controls the money supply. Maybe it'll be the Fed. Maybe it'll be the White House if the president has his way. Money is not, the rate of inflation does not emerge from real economic activity. It's determined by the entity that has control over the supply of money in the long run.
Taking a look at markets as we head towards the top of the hour, the Dow is up 190 points, S&P is up 38, NASDAQ up 191. So we've got a broad-based rally taking place today, negating yesterday's losses. Ultimately, heading into day 9 of government shutdown, so still no government economic day that's going to be provided, which means no weekly jobless claims tomorrow. So we won't be able to talk about that on tomorrow's show because it does not exist. But we got a whole lot more that we're going to talk about then. To all of you who are going to join us at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we'll put on a great show.